All right. Welcome this morning. First on our agenda is Board of Equalization. And so we're gonna open up that meeting first, and then we'll go into our county commission meeting. So with that, we have one item on our agenda, and it is it's a review process report. Are there any questions on that?
I have none.
None.
Okay, seeing none, a motion to be in order.
Move that we approve the Board of Equalization Assessor approved review process report from the 3rd of August, 2017.
Second?
A motion and a second to approve agenda item number 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
We've got a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're now adjourned from the Board of Equalization. We'll move into our Board of County Commission meeting. Oh, we need to pause 1 second as we stop the recording and start it. Okay. Now we are in our Board of County Commission meeting. And as always, we like to start with a prayer, a reading, or a thought, and then the Pledge of Allegiance. And we're looking for anyone out there who would be willing to participate with us in that. Any volunteers? Pledge?
Bert? Okay.
Prayer? Okay, thank you. Come on up for the.
Our Father in heaven, we thank you for all the many blessings we have. We thank you for this community we have to live in. We thank you for the blessings we enjoy, the rights and privileges we have as American citizens. We thank you for this process of government that allows citizens to be involved in the political process and the government, and we thank you for the public servants that serve and do their jobs for the benefit of the community. We ask a special blessing be upon this meeting, that we can understand each other, that we can have good communication, that we can be polite and productive in our discussions, resolve the differences or issues that need attention. We say these things in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We have 9 items on our consent agenda. And as I was going down through them, I didn't see any of them that I would like to pull off. Are there any from the other commissioners?
Didn't have anything.
Okay. So we'll leave them on consent. And from our regular agenda, we'll put everything on consent except for what we're gonna pull off. I would like to see number 1 held. If we could, I propose that we table number 2 till after our closed meetings.
Okay.
Number 4, question, and number 9 and 10 are the ones that I'd like to see.
Works for me.
I had 3 as well.
And 3 as well, okay. Okay, and then all the others will go on consent. Is there any comments, questions, or concerns with what we're putting on consent? That will be to approve, adopt, or recommend, or whatever the wording is that's on the, or ratify, whatever's on the agenda. Okay, seeing none there, we'll move into those that we held off. Number 1, Paul, I'm sure you're coming up for this one.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Board of Commissioners, Paul Jones from the Attorney's Office.
My question's always the same on this. Statutorily, it says that anything under 10,300 is exempted, and yet it's on our agenda to be approved. And so I'll just ask the question over and over on it. Why do we have it on our agenda?
Great. Well, we also have an application for the exemption, and so that application needs to be approved in some manner. I did send you an email yesterday evening. Don't know if you had a chance to read it or
No.
not.
Sorry. I didn't.
Well, that's okay. Basically, I think your
Give you a
board
copy.
has a number of options. Was that
That's how I read your email.
right? Yeah, I think you have a lot of options here.
Whether we do an ordinance or whether the commission just acts.
Yeah. Yeah, so the
Acts it.
commissioners can act. I think you have the authority to create an ordinance where you give the authority possibly to the assessor's office, or you can kind of run this however you'd like, I think. I think once there is an application, it needs to be approved somehow. And so the question is, how are we going to approve that application? The application is provided by statute. If we ask for evaluation report, then with that comes the requirement that they also file an application for that exemption.
Okay.
I guess in either rate, I might recommend approving this item, and then we can kind of come back to the commissioners and find out what, do you want to kind of delegate this out? Do you want to see it on your agendas? I also think you could put it on BOE. The code's not really clear about what body is supposed to kind of review this, so I think that would say that you guys have discretion to kind of run this how you'd like.
I think a couple thoughts for me. One, I would definitely question if this is a BOE. I think it makes sense where we're dealing with the tax that it might look better on a BOE agenda because we're there. I would be
So you
interested.
like it on the BOE?
Yeah, I'm
Oh.
curious if, I think that might be a better fit, just off what we discussed. My understanding, and this is, I think where it gets a little tricky, is the fact that we're assessing a penalty for a failure to act in this particular instance.
If they have to act. We don't know, we can't verify that they actually have to.
Well, this is different, though. I think
Yeah, so we're not really talking about the penalty here.
Okay.
This item here is simply to approve the applications for those who are low value property
Okay.
owners,
10,300.
the 10,300. We're wanting to exempt them from the property tax, which is allowed by statute, but the statute also says that they need to apply for it. And so this would be us accepting that application and not.
So my real concern is all this keeps showing up on our agenda the last 4 weeks in a row. And we keep saying, we want something done, we want something done. Your email is very specific that says we have wide discretion. I just want to know why we don't have an ordinance so we can abolish this sucker.
Well,
I
we have-
agree, if it's a taxing, it needs to be in BOE, but I know, but I'm just saying, when it comes to, why we don't take an ordinance to, have that list so that it doesn't show on our agenda, we just automatically exempt the ones that are under 10.3 that the treasurer or assessor, whomever, the statute says, just take care of that. And then the other ordinance to exempt whatever we choose to exempt so that we, don't have to waste the time. That's my question.
The problem is that when it comes on the agenda and we can approve or deny, if we deny, that's problematic.
Right.
And we wouldn't.
Right.
But it's just as awkward to be on the agenda for approve or deny, and then if we
I
can
agree. I
approve-
think, on that issue, there are a lot of items where, yeah, you have more discretion than others. In some areas, you're going to find my office saying, you need to decide this way. There needs to be a decision. There needs to be an approval process. And that's why maybe it makes sense to move it to the assessor's office and do it administratively.
Yeah.
But
with parameters, meaning that if they meet the application,
Yeah.
appropriately, then it just automatically, because of state statute,
Yeah.
it is accepted by the county.
I know the treasurer's watching this on the stream, so he'd be happy if we moved all personal property back into the assessor's office.
And just so Commissioner Graves knows, last week, I met with representatives from my office, the assessor's office, the treasurer's office. I know it's bouncing on your agenda a few times, but the wheels are moving. I think we're kind of getting somewhere. It would be really helpful if the commission would give some, hey,
We're getting there.
put this over to the assessors, and then we can do it. Or, you know what, we like it here. I mean, I don't exactly know what the commission wants either.
To not see this on our agenda, duh.
I don't know, Commissioner Riley kind of likes it on the agenda, you know, so it's,
Great, it gives us something to talk about, because we never have anything. So from my perspective, in trying to find resolution to this, for me, I think if this continues, it's a Board of Equalization type of an issue from the board here, if we're reviewing it from the taxing status. I think the simplest solution is to have it to be an administrative process controlled by the assessor. I think there's still accountability because he's a publicly elected official. And then if there's clear definitions, that's the simplest solution. And it keeps it from having to continually come before and drag the process out. It streamlines it, makes it a little faster, so those people can get their approvals quicker, because it's going through an administrative process with clear guidelines. If we're concerned about oversight, to me, it makes sense to come back to the Board of Equalization, so there's a double check on oversight there. And so I think that's the discussion
Yeah.
that I would
I like
say
the simple,
there.
I like the simple version. The reason why I like the simple version is because we are a political subdivision of the state. This is a state statute for us. It has the boundaries already in place. It's an application process. I think there's lots of times we accept applications, you know, on versus with state statute in mind. And so it just makes it simple. I mean, even if it showed up on the Board of Equalizations, do we have the opportunity to approve or deny?
it would be the same.
It's the
thing
same,
here,
so
yeah.
it just feels awkward to me.
Yeah. Now, as far as kind of oversight, I was talking to Jim Stevens this morning. He tells me that they would, if you did decide to go kind of the administrative route, the assessor's office would put these items through on a correction letter to you, ultimately
Right.
to kind of accept that action that they took.
Why?
Anyway, but
Why?
or it would be possible possibly to leave it off.
We-
But we can work through that, I think. But that,
I don't know why we'd even have, I mean,
yeah.
we accept state statute.
Right. That I guess that comment was just that's how things sort of that's the default, but we can work it out. I think we have options, so we can.
Well, again, I think we trust the elected official, whether it's the treasurer and or assessor in this case, to do what's right. Neither of them want to waste time and money on
Right.
these issues either. So
Right.
I think we're all on the same page. I think it's just the vehicle on how we get there.
Okay. Sounds like there's some consent to move this to the administrative process, most likely in the assessor's office,
Sooner than later,
and get that going.
not typical government.
Hey, we can do that.
Thank you, Paul. But
Okay,
at this
then.
point, we still need.
We need
Guys,
to
it's
take
a
action
Should
today.
take
I'll move that
action.
we approve regular agenda item number 1.
Second?
Had a motion and a second to approve agenda item number 1 on our regular agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That passes 3-0. Okay, we tabled number 2. Oh, this was the one that you,
Yes. On this one, just a quick, on the setback portion, everything seemed to make sense. Just curious as to why we're eliminating the noxious weed certification. To me, that seems to be a built-in protection, particularly for ag areas and critical environment zones, to make sure we're doing due diligence in our part to make sure we're not spreading noxious weeds and that we're controlling them. What's the benefit of going through that?
Well, we're proposing to take noxious weeds out of rec resorts and mountain home developments in the CE2 zone, which are typically up in the canyon areas. And we felt that the noxious weed certification wasn't important up there. Truthfully, looking back in the ordinance prior to 2009, it wasn't in there, and I believe that those requirements were accidentally added to the ordinance in 2009. If you look at where that, and it's kind of a long chain of events, but in 2009, the PUD ordinance was amended, and they added, and this noxious weed requirement was added to a section of the ordinance that didn't make any sense. It was added in a section where it talks about like signature blocks for plats and that sort of thing, and so it got added in a weird place. And then they used that PUD ordinance as a template for revising the mountain home development and rec resort requirements, and so I think it got carried over there inadvertently.
Okay.
And so it didn't make sense. We're not proposing to get rid of noxious weed certifications for planned subdivisions. We see that as a very important thing, and planned subdivisions are very typical down in the valleys and the agricultural areas of the county, but we didn't think that was necessary up in the canyon areas. Those types of developments also seem to place an importance on natural vegetation, and so that's it just didn't seem to make sense. So
I guess that's where I was a little struck, because in trying to adhere to natural vegetation, it makes sense to me to have it in those areas where we're trying to keep the weeds out, but.
if we can
That
certainly
was,
look at
that was
keeping-
just, that, and I was looking for clarification as to why it had been, suggested to take it out.
Sure.
If it was truly beneficial and doing some good, then why would we take it out? And I guess that would be my next question then, is there any type of documentation saying where we've run into issues with it there?
No.
Where it's doing good or not good? Because if it's worthless, then by all means, let's get rid of it.
I think it's, I've not seen any benefit. Honestly, recreational resorts and mountain home developments are not common development types.
Okay.
And they, typically what we're seeing are planned subdivisions, and they're required there. Again, rec resorts and mountain home developments are up in the canyon areas, something like you'd see up at Sundance, and so that's kind of why we thought it
Or Hobble
wasn't.
Creek Canyon, and then all of a sudden it turns into a subdivision even though it was zoned as a resort.
Yeah, the cottages, Hobble Creek, yeah. So,
All right, any other discussion? Motion to be in order?
Move that we adopt the ordinance to amend the Utah County Land Use Ordinance as stated in regular agenda item number 3.
Second.
We had a motion and a second to adopt an ordinance as stated in number 3 on our regular agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0. Okay, on number 4, I have some just simple questions. I understand what you're doing here with this, Bryce. My question is in 7-24 under powers and duties of the county commission. I see here that it says, however, if the planning commission, and I'm going into the middle of number 1. It says, however, if the planning commission fails to return a recommendation within 45 days from its receipt of the proposed amendment, the county commission may assume an affirmative recommendation. I understand that, but then down at the bottom there, where you crossed out the public hearing for, it says planning commission or county commission, if we have a 45, and I don't think this would ever happen, but just if there was a 45-day proposal that came to the county commission, I would think that we'd still want to have a public hearing. And if we didn't have a public hearing at the county at the planning commission level, then
We would
we'd
do it
need to
here.
have one at the county commission level. And so I was wondering why it's proposed that we strike that out. It seems at odds.
Bryce Armstrong, Community Development staff. We're just trying to mirror state code. State code requires a public hearing at the planning commission level. You can still have one at the county commission level if you so choose, but state code says it shall be at the planning commission level. So maybe that reference that you just picked up on is a problem that we'd have to build something in. Again, I don't know if that would ever happen. I think the intent here was to not have the impression that Well, if you miss it at the planning commission, you know, we'll have it at the county commission. The state code says it's gotta be at the county commission, and it says the county commission, legislative body, has to hold a public meeting. That's the minimum standard.
Right.
So,
So the 45 days
Yes,
then,
why is that in
we
there?
would have to change that and say that they would have to hold a meeting within the 45 days.
yeah, I guess in order to avoid not having a
They
public
wouldn't,
hearing
they
at the
wouldn't
planning
be able to
commission.
fail is what I'm saying in it. They'd have to, at least, at a minimum, hold a public hearing.
Plus in 25E, it says amendments to this ordinance may be adopted by the county commission only after a public hearing by the planning commission. So it's not an option
Correct.
in the same ordinance.
Yeah, I didn't look at that 45-day thing. Frankly, we've never had that really invoked, and so we can kind of take a look at that and maybe wordsmith something there in
Yeah,
there.
and I noticed it there, I also noticed it down on 7-25E. So I don't know if they tie together. The county commission has
Yeah,
a line
that's,
through it too.
That was, again, that is just trying to
It ties,
consistent,
yeah.
be consistent with the state procedure there, and then the last part of that E
Yeah.
is just to
Right.
allow you to make your changes here.
That was my only concern was maybe we should take a peek at that and see
Okay, yeah,
what works best on it.
yeah, that's, haven't really contemplated that scenario, so we can take a look at that.
Should we continue it for 1 week?
Yeah, that's fine. I don't know if you had any questions on the other portion of it related to building plans. We have the building official here if we had any questions there, so.
I guess the only question I'd have potentially on that, on the review process itself, I think part of the inherent problem is trying to coordinate the efforts between the health department and your department and stuff. What internal processes are we trying to improve so that coordination happens quicker and better, so that we're not getting as many hung up in the
Well,
process? And part of the reason I asked that is actually it was last week I had a gentleman in my office frustrated with that process, because he's like, you know, the health department doesn't know what the planning department's doing. And I've heard that a couple times, and I don't mean that accusationally, I'm just saying these are the things that are brought to me.
sure.
And I think there's inherently some disconnect. Is there a way to improve that process, so there's better communication between those so that we can trim that timeframe down?
I can't necessarily speak for the health department, but there's always, opportunities to look to see where we can improve. We get an applicant in at different stages, and so what we do is whenever they come in, we have a packet we give them that identifies all the steps, all the potential steps that they need to follow, and we really hammer that home, both in a written document that we hand out at the counter when they come in saying, hey, what do I need to do to get a building permit? Or just in a conversation when they call in to our staff and say, hey, I want to get a permit, what are my steps? We really emphasize get to that health department as early as possible in the process, because they may have some site-specific issues that are related to septic disposal or whatever. And so that's what we currently do, and we're going to sit down and talk with the health department on some other procedural issues here in the near future, and that's something we can certainly address. And I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that.
The only thing I'd like to add to that would be, primarily in the county, we're dealing with raw ground. We don't have subdivisions with sewer and water stubbed. So, without that health department approval up front, there's no guarantee that they can even build on the property that they're,
Steve, you need to state your name for the record.
we stress that up front.
State your name for the record.
Oh, name's Steve Kitchen, building official.
Okay, any other questions?
1 week good enough?
1 week, will one week work?
Yeah, that's fine. That'd be fine.
Move that we continue regular agenda item 4 for 1 week.
Second?
A motion and a second to continue agenda item number 4 for 1 week. All in favor, say aye.
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 That passes 3-0. Before we get into the last two, if I could take maybe a moment of privilege. I've got a scouter here that I know is from Pleasant Grove area. I got a great scout master with him. Would you like to come up and state why you're here and give us your name, rank, and serial number? No, just kidding on that part. That will get you on the record. How's that? So you'll be on the record here with Utah County with our meeting. Tell us why you're here. I'm sure it's
Right to the microphone
right there in the microphone. Tell us your name.
that works.
My name is Ian, and I'm here for a merit badge.
Very good. Which one is it? Is it citizenship in the community? Or
Yes.
nation? Community? Okay. What are you here to learn? Or to find out, or to observe? Is it to watch an elected official's, meeting? Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here. Pleasant Grove, right?
Yep.
There we go.
Well, thanks, Ian, for coming.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. Okay. And just for note, one of the great scoutmasters in our county. He's always been a fantastic scoutmaster. All right, number 9, number 10. Well, of course, we'll start with number 9. This process is new to us, and so I'm going to propose to the commissioners that this be the format. If you would like something different, let's talk about it. I propose that we, well, maybe I'll state it this way first. So we have 3. The recommending committee has recommended 3 businesses, and this one here is for the benefits broker and consultant. To us, we have the opportunity to look down through it and pick out of those 3 that have been recommended to us. And I would like to see if we could have anybody who'd like to speak to this or have any comments on this topic to come up and speak to us. And then if we can pull it off of the public comment section of it, pull it back up here to the commission, and then we'll have a dialogue and from our side as we work down through and either our options are to select or reject all 3 and start over, which hopefully we're not going to do that, but that is the options that we have. So are there any comments? Anyone that was on the committee or by the public? Okay. Seeing none, we'll pull it back up here for discussion. I know we have had opportunity to sit in the meetings, listen to the recordings.
Well, not all of us were allowed to sit in there. I'll just state that for the record.
Okay. We did have all the.
Might as well get it started right.
We did have all the recordings available to us, to listen to the proceedings that were going on there. They went through a process interviewing and, taking their thoughts on what they could do for us. And this, again, we're talking about the benefits broker and consultant. And so, what's your thoughts in proceeding, commissioners? For discussion purposes.
I'm fine on this one. I didn't actually find any irregularities to anything, so.
So I guess part of my question here on the benefits, we came back with a ranking of Gallagher, Morton, and NFP in 1, 2, 3.
Right.
I would be the interesting part for me that I'd like some clarification on. On the cost side of it, the Gallagher on the flat fee was higher than the Morton, and I wanted to maybe get some thoughts from the committee that reviewed that as to what they felt we were getting more beneficially from that higher flat fee, and what the potential was for savings through the process. So if we're dealing directly with these individuals, are they going to get us benefits on medical savings on through the pharmaceutical process? Are they going to get us savings with our carrier, which is currently Select Health? As they work with those and find savings, does that come off of that flat fee? And what potential savings off of that flat fee, if any, are applicable from those particular entities? Or is this just a dollar amount that we're going to have to live with as we look at our budgeting process?
Cami Taylor, HR Director. I sat on the recommendation committee, and each individual was willing to either offer a flat fee or they would offer a fee that if they took commissions and overrides, it would reduce that fee. Every vendor's willing to negotiate, so I wouldn't, I mean, you should look at the ranges definitely, but as far as a solid, this is what you're going to have to commit to. Each one expressed that they were willing to negotiate and to come to whatever the decision of the county, and come to terms with that. As far as cost and benefit, Gallagher offered, they came in, they were very impressive in their presentation. They had a specific plan for compliance. They had an individual there who had analytics to offer and a plan to save money. Their plan was to look at pharmaceuticals, to look at the high price prescription drugs that our employees are paying for, and then to work with our vendors to get the money back, to include any negotiations for integrations into Workday into their plan for us. They also had a plan to look at our costs for high claims and to work with Select Health or propose their own wellness program that would look at tying our claims to wellness so that we're not doing this wellness program and it has no impact on the claim. So
basically built to lowering our rate.
correct. And so that we're starting late in having these types of analytics. When we were looking at all three of the benefits brokers, we were impressed with all of them for similar reasons, that they would offer analytics to our benefits and have us be able to look at actual costs and ways to impact lowering our rate, so that when we get into that medical contract potentially with a new vendor in 2019, that we would be able to negotiate with a less loss ratio.
The next question I would have, when it comes to complying, I was trying to find the right word there, complying with the ever-changing landscape of federal regulations in regard to healthcare. There's 100% confidence that this firm has the legal expertise to make sure that we're complying with that ever-changing federal landscape,
Yes.
and additionally looking for ways to drive our costs down. I think from my perspective in selecting one of these, my greatest concern is that we continue to get our employees the greatest benefits that we can. It's one of the attractions at working at the county. We need to keep that, but we've got to address the skyrocketing prices. And so I want to make sure we have complete confidence that this firm is going to help us comply with law and still meet those needs.
Are you referring to the number one spot, or do you want me to speak to each of them?
If you could maybe just speak to each three as to which one you felt like addressed those issues the best.
Every single one of the top three, everyone on the committee felt like you can't really make a bad choice. Gallagher, I think, was ranked number one because of their presence and because of what they committed to us, in that right now we have an executive that we work with in the broker, and then we have a day-to-day person that we work with, and Gallagher had 2 executives that we would work with. They had 4 people that we would work with day-to-day on different issues, compliance and scoping out savings in pharmacy, looking at claims and wellness, and they brought the team and mentioned that this was the team that would be working with Utah County. And they were impressive and persuasive in their presentation. Morton was really, really impactful in the analytics they proposed and the ways to save money for the county. NFP touted themselves on the reputation that they've built with us and the impact that they've already made for the county in the relationships that they have in the community and with us.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
As I looked down through this one, I was comfortable with the committee's recommendation for the number one. I didn't have any problems as I looked down through it. They're close, and I was fine with that. I'll just throw that out there for conversation.
Yeah, I was too. Commissioner Lee and I had the opportunity last year through an RFP that we moved out to here. Actually, most of the people that applied again this year, so we're pretty familiar with them, and they were impressive last year. Sounds like the independent 5 that heard them this year was impressed as well. So
I guess my only thought would be, for a direction, if we can try and negotiate that price a little bit.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
this will,
always.
this will go, although we accept it, it'll still go to negotiation. I'm not sure who does the negotiation.
Bob
Is
does that,
Rob?
right?
You're gonna do the negotiation with these,
you've always been our guy that does it,
and then we'll
Dave.
give him direction on the negotiation part, for things that we'd like to see, of course. So that just means that negotiations are one of those things where you go down through and you hope everything's tied up, and that gets us to fine tuning it so that we can feel comfortable all the way around. And if not, then we would look at a different direction. So it seems to me like a motion would be in order.
I'll move then that we receive the recommendation from the committee, and with the recommend proposal for further negotiations or award of a contract with the number 1 selection from the committee, Gallagher, can't remember their exact name.
Arthur Gallagher.
Arthur J. Gallagher and Company or something like that.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. What is it, to accept? What is the word? Receive the recommendation, as stated on number 9 with Arthur J. Gallagher. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0. Okay. We'll now move to the next one. It's an RFP. Same situation went on. This one is for the retirement plan consultant. And are there any who would like to come up and speak to that? Okay, seeing none, we'll pull it back up here unless the commissioner has a question. We have 3 applicants here that, NFP, Soltis, and ANCO. I had the opportunity to sit through most of these, or a couple of these anyway. And then, of course, listen to the thoughts that were expressed there. All of them are impressive in what they can do. There's a few hiccups here and there on the applications that seemed a little concerning, but nevertheless, maybe I should make this this thought. When we go through these in the future, it would be nice to have a sheet that kind of gives a little bit more detail as to why. I mean, I listened to the comments, but the difference between, the top 3, maybe a more detailed sheet on why it was picked that way. Any other concerns or comments?
Well, I have big concerns with this one. It would be my recommendation we throw this thing out, and this is why. This is the RFP, second paragraph, very easy to understand. There are 3 bullet points. Utah County is interested in selecting a partner that will proactively, I'm not a lawyer, I know what that word means, it's pretty easy, assist Utah County with the following services: plan administration consulting, investment consulting, and individual financial planning. Individual financial planning is stated in the RFP. 3 of the 5 applicants didn't actually even address individual financial planning. The ones that did, some of them said we do it as a per diem, and or we don't recommend that we do it. The ones that said we do it as a per diem, I listened to the tape. I've listened to the tape. In fact, I took it to 2 of the committee members yesterday and let them listen and asked them how they rank them. And they literally said, for an organization your size of over 1,000 people, we don't really deal with the financial planning. In fact, we would recommend that you bid this out. Well, what a shame. They shouldn't have even been there presenting, because if that's not what they do, they are not supposed to be there, because it is clear. I mean, it's not even hard to find there in bullet points. And so individual financial planning being one of the key components, I don't know how we can award a contract when it's not been followed. In fact, if you read, and I have every one of the score sheets, and I've made every note, and if you read what every one of them said when they talk about financial planning or presentation, they're very clear and they say, well, they don't know how they're gonna do it, they just wanna eliminate conflicts. Well, that's not an answer. When I asked two of the committee members how they assessed the cost, because if they're not doing one of the three key components, which, by the way, is the most expensive component of the bid, if they're not doing that, I said, then how did you possibly rank? Because one of the three criteria is cost. And they said, we estimated. Well, how do you estimate when they give you an incomplete bid? They shouldn't have even had a chance to be estimated. The next part that offends me is, unlike the benefits RFP, the score sheet was very non-subjective. It was very matter of fact. This is subjective garbage, in my opinion. Cost, that's not very subjective, except for when we break it down that way. Qualifications of key personnel. Well, that's not broken down. That is 100% subjective. You come in, oh, we're rating you, on your appearance. Ability to perform RFP requirements. That's the third one. Okay. Well, the fact that 3 groups got recommended to us, but 2 got scored, and they got scored in that, and they, in their plan, in fact, on ANCO on page 5 and Soltis, I want to say it was page 8, both actually address that they don't do it. So how we score and give them a score, it's not even valid. It's not even close to a fair process, and that's my problem with this one. I just think that in this case, the commission needs to pull this one back and start over again to have a process that is fair, because in this case, there are also a couple other options that I think we could look at. There's no reason to potentially spend taxpayer money on this. This is an employee-funded plan or whatever, but I think the employees need to be involved in. There's some different options, and I was offended that after we passed an ordinance 2 months ago for us to be involved, that I know I wasn't asked, I wasn't consulted on who the review committee or recommendation committee, wasn't even asked. I wasn't asked to look at the score sheets when I'm throwing a fit over the last year and a half, making sure they're not subjective. I wasn't consulted at any point. And then actually they went to fact to on the score sheets. And then I was actually literally asked to not even attend, even though I was never asked why I wanted to attend. So for that, I believe we should pull this process out, pull this one out.
Okay, hold on, we're up here. We're not taking any comments right now unless the commissioner asks for comments. I can see some problematic points that are in there, and I acknowledge those as well. I do think that this position and having this for the county, this group is beneficial to the county in that I don't really want to pull it back in the county and try to do it on a county level, because there's expertise out there that I think is needed and necessary, especially when we're talking about retirement for the employees. Some of the companies that I saw out there, fantastic. I think they'll do a great job. I have one that I am in favor of, and not just because of being able to sit down through it, but I saw the responsiveness. I saw what I think is an ability to come forward and say, let's find, what do you want? What do you want to do? And instead of giving a presentation, I saw an organization that was willing to say, we want to work for you. And I think this group is that group where it represents us as we go to the record keepers and try to find proper record keepers, and to keep them in compliance. We need somebody with this kind of expertise in the industry, as I see it. I think that's important for us to have. So I would like to go through the process still, if we can. I would like to find a way that we can all feel comfortable about it. Obviously,
I'm never going to be there.
You're not going to be there?
I'm not going to be there at all. I will abstain from any vote that moves forward. So,
Okay.
but there are 2 of you, so,
Well,
and that's okay. That's why there are.
well, I mean, I would prefer us going together as much as possible, even if we were to continue it for a week for more discussion, if needed and necessary, if you think there's any opportunity to move on
The
it.
stuff I laid out isn't going to change. The process for me was flawed, and it's about the integrity. My integrity was attacked, and I'm going to make sure this, to me, is a process of integrity. That's why we actually moved the one RFP to this year,
Yeah.
because of that same process.
Right.
And
That's
so,
why I'm so sensitive to this.
I know. You and I have lived this, unfortunately.
Right.
So, yeah,
I
for
am
me,
sensitive to it.
that's, like I say, it doesn't need to be subjective, and especially when dealing with government, especially it's clear cut, and it should be clear cut. And for me, this one's not, and that's why it's got problems.
Okay,
I'm,
Commissioner?
I guess I had a different experience, so. I was informed of when everything was, I was invited to the processes. I couldn't make this particular one because I had a prior meeting and engagement. I received all the reports from the committee. The committee spoke to me happily, individually, and with questions I had. I think there is a concern, you know, about the one particular component of the RFP. And I think from what I've read through in their rankings, that was considered by some of them.
So I'll just let you know so that you're on the same page. The committee actually went to our chair, and he had to come and ask me if I wouldn't attend the scoring. Again, nobody ever asked me why I wanted to attend. I was literally asked not to. That's a problem for, I would be up here sounding the trumpet if they had done that to you guys as well, because we are the ones that are accountable ultimately for the vote. For me, when that's part of the process, that's a flawed process, because in essence, you're trying to prevent something, is how it looks to me. So,
Yeah.
Mm.
It is, and I hear what you're saying on that. And my thought to you on that one was, if we have the recording, maybe we
and
don't
I
have
did
to
listen
be
to the
there.
recordings
Yeah.
more than once.
Right.
And that's why that's why this nasty little note of notes, I mean, it's just, to me, it's a big legal red flag for us. So, but I'm not an attorney.
So do you, it sounds like there's nothing that's gonna change on this. You're gonna abstain from it
I am.
unless we, okay. So I'm gonna turn now to Commissioner Ivy on this. So we will have to be unanimous on it if we're gonna move this forward. Even if we delay it a week, it doesn't sound like Commissioner Graves wants to go forward with us on it. Unless we throw it out. Then in that case, if we were unanimous in throwing out, at this point, I'm not really willing to throw it out. I think there's been a lot of work done, and I wanna move forward.
I'm happy moving forward. So,
Okay. Then, did you have a preference, or would you like me to state my preference?
From what I've read back through and the feedback I've got, I thought the top ranking NFP seemed like, was it unanimous or 4 firsts and 1 second, and that the committee felt very comfortable with them. So I didn't have any additional questions on that one.
Mine's number 2 with Soltis. I feel comfortable with them. Their presentation and what they gave us was, I thought, very high quality. Again, I have part of the problem is that I see in Soltis what I have not received so far this year, in the last 2 years, 2.5 years, with NFP, and that is engagement at a level which I believe needs to happen for the county. And I did something just a little bit different. So I went to some county employees and asked them. I said, "What are you comfortable with where we're at when it comes to the retirement package that we have? And do you feel comfortable in your interaction, at what level of interaction that is there?" I received quite a few that said no. They were very concerned. We even had that one. We had one that came up and spoke to us when we did the audit, and said, they were uncomfortable with what was happening. And so I went that level instead of kind of going on a different level. So I am in favor of going with Soltis. Not that I think that they can't. One area that was a little concerning to me was when I sat through NFP's presentation. They were showing us things that I thought we should have already known about, which was concerning. If they're our broker now, we should know about those, and that was a little concerning. And I know that Cammie recognize that as well. So that, to me, I want somebody that's gonna be there on a pretty regular basis with us and be that advocate for us going forward aggressively and also conservatively with the retirement. There's a lot of money out there. I think it's between 80 to $100 million that's in that. I don't know exactly what it is, but
150.
what's that?
150
150
total
million?
investments.
150? Okay. $150 million. It is not a small thing. This is a big deal. It's a big deal to our, the employees, those who have retired. And so that's kind of where we're at, so. Is there any movement my way? I'll ask that question.
So, I would actually wonder if we treat this a little bit, and this is part of why I think this process is maybe a little better. Can we give direction to enter into negotiations for a best proposal? You know, a new and latest best proposal from the top two candidates.
I think we'd have to ask that question.
And that's,
We did that in the past.
that's an ask. I know we've done that in the past. Is that,
Dave?
If you would like to interview them specifically.
Okay. That seems reasonable.
that seems reasonable to me, so.
You want to be a part of that?
Nope.
Dang it, you're not supposed to say that.
If they want to challenge process, I'll be there for them with all my documentation. That's why I brought it, so that everybody can see it, so it's grammable.
Fair enough.
I warned the attorneys, I sent them emails before the process started. I mean, this one has, yeah, I'm done.
I would be to me, that would be great to have the opportunity. Like I mentioned, this one I didn't get to sit in on, so I leaned on the recommendation committee pretty heavy on that. I'd be happy to sit down and hear their best proposals and what makes them good. And why I should pick them, I think that'd be reasonable.
Okay. I think at this point, if we hear their best proposals, it wouldn't be a modification of anything that they have. It would be their proposals straight out. Am I seeing that correct? We're not looking for negotiation parts of this. We're, yeah.
Albert Baxter, County Purchasing Manager. So you're talking about just another round of interviews, basically, where you
Just the two of us.
just the two finalists, basically, is what you. Yeah. Yeah, it wouldn't be like a new offer, it would just be
Right.
presenting,
what they've already presented and
right, and you'd
maybe
ask
some more
whatever questions you wanted to ask them.
We could get any more questions. Dave, any problems from your perspective there?
That seems reasonable.
I think that would be great. So I'd be happy to do that.
Okay. So in this case, how long is that gonna take? Set that up. I would assume, Robert, you'd set that up. I know, and that's the problem.
I was gonna say, I know that answer,
Can we,
especially with budget kickoff tomorrow.
I know,
You could just receive the recommendations today. Limit your motion to just receiving.
the
and
two,
then- Well, you're receiving of the recommendation, which is all three.
Okay.
But then you're gonna not take any, not select which one until a later date.
till a later date, and that way it leaves it in limbo
Yeah, I mean,
until we,
you're receiving the recommendation of the top three proposals, which is being submitted to you. And
do you
then I
see
would
any need
suggest,
to receive the top three, or should we just receive the top two?
I'm fine just receiving the top two.
Okay.
well, technically, I think you have to receive the top three, but then you direct to move forward with only those top two
Okay.
with
we'll do
regard to
that.
negotiations, because
Okay.
that's, the ordinance provides that they would be submitted to you. The top three are to be submitted to you, and that's what we're doing.
Okay,
Okay, so I'm gonna take a stab at this one. Dave, watch me on this. So I'd move that we receive the recommendations of proposals for RFP 2017-12 for retirement plan consultant, with further interviews conducted between the commissioners and the top two placing candidates, NFP and Solstice, I almost want to put a time frame on that, but trying to make calendars works makes me nervous about that.
I think you
So-
can stop right there. if you
We'll
like.
stop there. Does that work then?
And I will suspend the rules so that so I can make a second, and I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No, for stated reasons of legality of RFP.
Okay, we have 2-1 with Commissioner Graves opposing that. Okay. On our closed meetings, we only need number 13 and 14.
Motion to strike 11 and 12 from the agenda?
Second?
And a motion and a second to strike agenda items number 11 and 12 on our agenda. So I said that twice. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0.
Move that we approve and set a date, time, and location for a closed meeting to discuss character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual or individuals for today's date at this location following completion of regular agenda items.
Second?
A motion and a second to approve and set a date, time, and location as stated number 13 on our regular agenda. All in favor, say aye.
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 Passes 3-0.
Move that we approve and set a date, time, and location for a closed meeting for a strategy session to discuss pending or reasonably imminent litigation for today's date at this location following completion of regular agenda items.
Second?
We got a motion and a second to approve and set a date, time, and location as stated number 14 on our regular agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0. We're gonna move quickly in, oh wait, we have, go into closed session. Looks like we have no, work session items. Are there any public comments? General public comments? Okay, seeing none, we're gonna move quickly into our, and we're gonna do that after.
Oh, okay.
Into our closed meetings, so if we can excuse you from the room.
Ian, thank you for coming.
And we're gonna move into the litigation one first.